So The Jester 2 is directed by Colin Krawchuk. When teenager Max crosses a sinister jester on Halloween, she must outsmart the killer, whose tricks are all too real. I'm going to make a lot of comparisons to Terrifier in this review, so I apologize ahead of time if that starts to get old, but I think it's the perfect comparison. The same way I felt watching that franchise for the first time, I'm starting to get those vibes when I left the theater watching this. And more so than the movie itself, I think I just really enjoyed my experience when it comes to watching this film. Getting to see a movie like this in 2025 in theaters, absolutely awesome, I think. I said during my review of Terrifier that I never thought during my lifetime I would get an original horror icon I'd never heard of before I would get to see on the big screen. I would be part of like a movement of independent, original, low-budget horror. That's how I felt watching Art the Clown become mainstream, and I'm not going to put The Jester into that category because I think Terrifier 2 is a way better movie than this movie. Don't get me wrong. Terrifier 2 is one of the best slashers ever made now, probably. But the same way I felt watching those movies and the movement that was behind those films is the same way I felt watching this movie. I had that same feeling of, we're going somewhere with this. I could see down the line people really taking a liking to the Jester character. I didn't feel that way when I watched the first film. For a little bit of context, as always, this movie was based off of a short film from about a decade ago or something like that. Not exactly sure. It was a super viral short at the time, like 10 million views. Crazy popular. I feel like just about everybody in the horror community knows of it. For that reason, the movie they made a couple of years ago as well kind of caught on and started going viral when they made a full movie based on that short. I eventually got around to seeing it, and for context, I was not really a fan of that movie at all. It had some good moments for sure. You know, you could see the potential of a Jester character. They had a little bit of fun with it, but as for the movie itself, it was a slog. I thought it was kind of melodramatic. You know, it's the same way, again, I compare it to Terrifier 1, where I don't really feel like that was even a movie. It was more of a proof of concept, just show off the practical effects. The same way I think The Jester was to show off a guy in a costume and say, do you like this guy playing tricks? Maybe in the future we'll make a movie out of it. And watching The Jester 2, I think it's the same thing they did with Terrifier 2. Just about everything, all of the issues I had in the first film were remedied in this movie. It's bigger and better in every way. I think they lean into the campiness even more. The atmosphere, the ambience, the vibes of Halloween time, they capture all of that in this movie. I thoroughly enjoyed my time with this movie, and I was not expecting to. Let me start off with the positives. I just said one of them. I think this movie is like the perfect Halloween film, okay? It's not a perfect movie. Don't mistake my words. Just the time of year you could watch the movie. Maybe even more so than in a movie theater. This feels like the perfect film if you were out at like a hayride or somewhere where there's like Halloween atmosphere, you know, you're bobbing for apples, there's cider, that this movie would be the movie they play on the giant projector in front of the hayride. Like, this is the type of film it feels like. Basically, every scene in this film has pumpkins and Halloween lights and the trick-or-treating. This movie made me feel so connected to Halloween time, and in some capacity, I'm kind of disappointed I didn't get to see this movie in the way I'm describing it. It's kind of lame I got to see it in the theater as much as I enjoyed it. Because this feels like the perfect movie for a crisp fall night when you're handing out candy and you're just relaxing with the family. That's what I feel like this movie is. And I think they really captured the spirit if that's what they were going for. I had a blast with it. Also, just getting this movie made is such an impressive accomplishment by the director. Obviously, this is a passion project. These shorts have been going back about a decade now, and we finally are starting to build some traction, some fandom within this franchise. I will always champion low-budget independent horror movies with original ideas, original villains, especially going to theaters. That's really why I wanted to check this out, and for the most part, I think it is a massive step up. So, you know, just for the director to even get his vision included, I love that. I will always champion that. I say it all the time on my channel. I'm a little bit more lenient towards low-budget movies, but in the end, I just enjoy seeing people who wouldn't have a voice otherwise get their material out there. I really like that. This is an incredibly well-made movie, I think. Cinematically, it looks really great. The lighting is great. You have some really cool, I'm going to get into that in just a second, but some really cool and creative scenes. Much like Terrifier 2, again, this movie feels like a more fleshed out version of this character and the lore being built around the Jester character and why we can actually have a movie. Ton of different ideas. Because in the movie, we follow our main character, Max, who is this very likable, sympathetic teenager who's kind of an outcast. She dresses as a magician, but she's viewed as kind of the nerdy, dorky kid. You know how it is when kids pick on people. Kids are so damn mean. And on this Halloween night, she eventually stumbles upon the Jester, who is roaming the town causing chaos. You find out through lore that he has to collect the souls of 4 innocents every Hallows Eve, and he's doing this by tricking them, much like a Jester would. Having some fun, playful torment, much like Art the Clown. Again, that's another thing you can easily compare and contrast. And that is kind of the lore they build up on, but it's something to work with. And I think it is a good, strong stepping point because just having this guy walk around the town, having these fun little playful set pieces involving Halloween, just the way a jester could use like magician tricks and just some interesting uses of deceptive sleight of hand. You have a lot of creativity in this movie that you did not get in the previous film, and it expands on what those short films got famous for. As for the Jester character itself, I was never super crazy about him. I think he is kind of creative on the surface, but he kind of grew on me in this movie. Again, I had that epiphany moment where I thought to myself, Art the Clown kind of started off like this. Do I think Art the Clown is more iconic? Sure, again, setting the bar incredibly high. But this was the first instance with this Jester character I really started to like him, and I started to like his actions, and I liked the body language. Again, very David Howard Thornton-like performance. I could see the guy who does the work for the Jester eventually kind of catching on in the horror industry if he hasn't already. And I just really like the life they added to this character that makes him stand out as a unique horror villain compared to the previous films, again, that were just kind of a long form short that didn't need to exist. It's one of those clear cases of whenever the Jester is on screen, you're really intrigued and you want to know what kind of silliness he's going to be up to. And whenever he's not, you just kind of want more of his character. I thought the way his character was used was very creative in this film. I thought they took some liberties with what they could do with that magician theme, and I thought his character, for the most part, was really compelling. I was super interested whenever he was on screen. In fact, I would go as far as to say there are some awesome moments. Really, this is one of those cases when I'm trying to think of negatives for the film. I'm battling being objective like a movie critic, whatever you want to call it. Just the way my heart feels, the way I felt watching this film. This is not a perfect movie by any means. This is incredibly low budget. The passion project. I'd imagine these directors, the cast, they're not making a lot of money. If anything, it's just something you could tell they've put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into. Really, the only two major negatives. I think some of the acting at points is shoddy. You know, this is not like your mainstream Hollywood cast. These are probably people who did this in their free time, or they haven't acted a lot. They're just starting their careers, very low budget. I give it a pass in places. I think the main character who plays Max is pretty good for what she's asked to do. And then the Jester, who's kind of the most iconic character in this movie, I think is acted well through body language and expression. I don't really think the supporting cast of characters you don't see too much really matters, even though a couple of them are standoutishly not that good. But my biggest issue with this movie is actually kind of a nitpick, and that is that all of the stuff I really enjoyed about this film, you know, the suspense and some of the use of creativity, it was really good. But I also think in some way it's undercooked because the way they pair that with the score of this movie and just some of the setup, be it like the sound effects, it's almost like this movie wasn't edited that well in post, or it just didn't have the time or the budget to add all of the stuff they wanted. So a lot of the stuff in this film that could be incredibly effective just comes off as, that was pretty cool. And I think that's kind of a letdown because, again, comparing it to Terrifier 2, I think that's what set Terrifier 2 over the edge and really put it on the map, is it went there, it was extreme, very well executed, and I think this movie's just okay in the way it's executed. The fact that this movie was so close to being exceptional, if you would have added a couple more sound effects or heightened the sound in certain areas or added a better score, maybe there was a little bit better lighting. I'm nitpicking greatly, but you notice it a lot because it's a consistent thing. But if it would have done all of that, I think this movie would really be in that categorization of Terrifier 2, where you'd be saying, we're really starting to cook here. If they make a third movie of this, I could really see this movie doing well. Because there were a couple of moments I missed Damien Leone's practical effects, and I thought, damn, if you would have paired him up in this movie, had him do the effects for that scene, that would have been awesome. But we just don't get that, unfortunately. Yeah, overall, I thoroughly enjoyed this film. I was really surprised by it. Again, I did not really like the first film. I thought it was nothing special, being nice to it. But I really enjoyed this movie. And more than that, I really enjoyed my experience getting to see it on the biggest screen. So if you do get a chance to see this movie in limited release, I highly recommend it. I thought it was a damn good time. So if you guys do get around to seeing the Jester 2, comment down below. Let me know what you think. Or let me know what you think of this character in general, whether you've seen the movies or not. As always, like, comment, subscribe. Join me down below. I love talking movies with you. I will see you in the next review. Peace.